Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have an interesting guitar on the bench today. We're doing a lot of work on this thing. It's a good customer of mine. I also play some music with him in a band. This is an Explorer type object. It is called a Hard Luck Kings guitar. Now, I did a little bit of research on this. He got a really good deal on this guitar, and I got to say, the build quality on the guitar is really good. But we're doing some interesting things. We're changing out some pickups. We are doing a full cleanup and setup on the guitar, and we're going to change the nut, although the nut we had to order, and it's going to be a little while. So instead of waiting, I'm going to reset the nut that came off and wait for the good Graphtec nut to show up, which is a nicer, a much better upgrade in their self-lubricating. So let's get to work and see where we go. As you can see, she's a pretty cool little guitar. These are not overly expensive guitars. I did a little bit of research on them, but they're really cool, and I gotta say the build quality on them and the finish quality is pretty darn good. It's not a custom shop guitar, don't get confused, but pretty neat stuff. Neat inlays. They call this one the Lady Luck, but let's call it what it is. It is an Explorer shaped object, and we put some Seymour Duncan Black Winter pickups in it. They're already in. I'm sorry, I do not show soldering because it's very meticulous and very small work, and really the only thing that's going to show is the back of my head while I'm doing it, but damn, they look good in there. We took some P90 knockoff type pickups out of there. They're in the box. The complaint was, and the customer brought me the pickups, so I did not source those. They're Seymour Duncan. Anything that I put in my guitars is Seymour Duncan, and I tout their product. Excellent product. Far above mid-level, high-end stuff. And that's my opinion. You can argue it, you can agree or disagree, but I'm telling you it's good stuff. This should wake up this guitar a lot compared to what came out of there. There was some entry-level P90 knockoffs in there, and that must be what they put in at the Guitar Kings or whatever they called. I'm sorry, I got to look again. Hard Luck Kings. I looked them up. They're pretty much an entry level. They're base model guitars, but they know what they're doing and they're put together pretty good. Which is nice, you know. Not everybody can spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a guitar. I'm just going to check for giggles because we can. There was no complaint for rocking frets or dead notes, but I always do this with a guitar that I just don't know. And I don't know this one really well yet, although I'm getting to know it. I just put some new pickups in it. Getting ever so slight rocking, not even enough to get in a twist over is my favorite saying. I just leveled out the frets on the Paul Stanley guitar. We'll get back to that shortly. There's nothing here to get in a twist over. A little bit of clicking here and there. Some sharp frets, not a lot. There was no complaint for dead notes, but I'm not sure how much he's played this, and I don't know how long he's had it. He's guitared like I am, and he's got 12 guitars in his stable, so he may not have spent a lot of time with this. Maybe he got it and went right to, let's put some good pickups in it and go from there, and I'm okay with that. So far, not horrible. I'll tell you, the Paul Stanley was way worse than this. And there's nothing here that tells me these frets need to be leveled or anything done with them. The nut was loose when I took the strings off. It didn't take much because he asked me to source him a nut, and I probably a little too quickly knocked this one out, because usually I can source a Graphtec, nut pretty quickly, good quality. But this one doesn't. Just got to go back in there because I'm going to finish up the guitar. He wants to play it, and we'll do all that with this nut, and then later on we'll knock that nut out, put the new one in, and cut it to spec. There's a bunch of glue here that I started to work on with my X-Acto knife. They used the wrong glue. I'm going to tell you that right from the get-go. It looks like a type of CA glue that they used on it, and you shouldn't use that much. And it took a little bit of tapping to get it out of there. And really, these things should be covered with a cloth, and they should pop right off. This one came right off, but it's the wrong kind of glue. So stand by while I get in there and scrape a little bit of this old glue material off. I'm going to reset this nut and use it temporarily until we can get to the better nut that we want to install in it. So stand by. So what we've been working at here, make sure I'm in the movie. The nut goes in up here, and again, we're just putting this back in temporarily. There's quite a bit of extra glue material right down in there where the nut sits on the headstock. I already cleaned off quite a bit, and all of it basically from the front part of where the fretboard meets the headstock and touches the nut. I'm just going to tap just ever so slightly a little bit of glue on there and hold that. It was CA glue that looks like it was put on there, if I was to guess. And there's quite a bit of glopping down here. Like, they put way too much. All you need is a little drop there, a little drop there, and sometimes just a touch there. It's the strings that hold the nut onto the guitar. I'm not going to try to chip this stuff out until we get the good nut that's gonna live with this guitar, the forever nut. We're just going to dab a little bit on the front here, get it onto the fretboard, and it's going to be on the bottom part where it touches the fretboard, not anywhere up here, because it appears as though somebody did some chip out here before, and we want to try to avoid that. So we're just going to put a touch of wood glue down here, bing bang boom, put that back on there, and we should be good to go. Too much glue. These things, I say it over and over and over again, do not need a lot of glue. It needs very little, actually. Where is my glue? There we go. And this is going to slow my process down, because I really want to clean up this fretboard and treat it, but I don't want to put any oil on there before I do that. I'm just going to be really careful on this first fret area, because I really like to get this thing set up, at least so the last thing that I have to do at any point is install the good nut that we're going to use forever. And he knows his stuff. He wants a Graphtec. They are good nuts. That's what I would recommend. Of course, 10 times more glue than I'll ever need. Where did I put my glue? Let's see what we got. Just a toothpick if I have one in here. Yep. On the bottom. It doesn't need a lot, and we're putting even less than I normally would because it is so temporary. Make sure we're flush, flush, flush. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to let that dry, but while that's drying, we're going to do a cleanup on the guitar, and we're going to it seems as though it's pushing out slightly. That's good. Yeah, that's just enough to hold it. And you know, wood glue takes a while, so. Wood glue takes a while, but within 15 minutes or so, it will hold it good enough that I can clean up the fretboard and dress the frets a little bit. Can't really put a clamp on this one. Normally I would do this right before I'm ready to restring it, but I want this to get a head start. I'm going to put you on pause real quick and we'll be right back. So that's setting and it's already started to adhere. I'm going to move on to cleaning up the guitar, and you've seen this exercise, but we're going to go through it one time. Little bit of, and we're going to take care not to get near that nut. So the first fret is going to get a little bit of neglect here. Just to stay away from that nut while it's doing its thing. Because once we clean it, you know what comes next. We're going to restring it and set it up. And start with this. Let's just see how bad this girl is. Yep, pretty bad. I mentioned to the customer how dry the neck looked. It's a nice thick rosewood fretboard, but damn, she's been played. She's got somewhere on the frets, nothing to get in a twist over. That's what guitars are made to do. Play them, use them, gig with them, make music. But geez, clean them up every once in a while. Get all the goop off of there, cigarette smoke, body, sweat, DNA, who knows what's in there. You know the story. You know the story. The AM. Of course, we're going to clean up the body in a little while too. But that's that. So, boiled linseed oil on there. Work wonders. You know how we do. And you're going to see the color in this thing change instantly because it was so dry. And it's going to take 2 applications. Sorry for the boredom. Some of you have seen this, some of you haven't. But this is how we do it. Get it on there, wipe it off. The second application, I'm going to leave a little bit longer before I wipe it off. Paper towel. This is not rocket science. This is care. Take care of your instrument. It is soaking that oil up. I don't think this neck has ever been treated. Just soaking it right up. Gotta say, the build quality on these for entry level, budget, call it whatever you want. I like them. I am going to do more research about this company because I got to tell you, I might research their stuff and buy one of their guitars because I'm liking what I see. I don't believe that everybody has to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to have a high quality, well playing instrument. Those are fine, but sometimes this is all you need. Yeah. And judging by what I'm feeling tactily and what I have found when I was in the cavity soldering in these new pickups, I am not at all turned off by this instrument. In fact, quite the opposite. I like it. I like it a lot. We're going to let this dry for just a few minutes, and that'll help that nut set a little bit too, so stand by. And then we're going to wipe it off. Okay, so you can see the difference in the neck. And by the way, while I was cleaning this off, a lot of polish material came off of these frets. Now, I got really looking closely at the frets, and some of them are not crowned beautifully, but they're not bad. About what you would expect. But when we were doing the fret rocker, we didn't find anything to get in a twist over, and I'm okay with that. This guitar is going to play beautifully. Let's get her cleaned up a little bit. Let's see how this responds. I don't think there's nitro on this, but she's a little dirty, but I wouldn't say she was a pig. But I want to clean this guitar and make it nice. Sorry about my bald head. I can't really turn it upside down. I have to be mindful of that loose nut there. So we're going to do as much cleanup on the front as we can. Dirty, but not nasty. It just looks as though it wasn't played a whole lot and left to get dirty. That's what my guess would be. I don't see anything that needs to be polished. Everything's coming right off. I like it. I like it a lot. I've been looking for some hardware for my Paul Stanley guitar. That did not go well. Maybe I'll just steal his hardware and run away. You think he would know? Got a post there that's locked up. We've got to look into that. Because we're going to need that to move when we want to set it up. This post is locked up. Why would that post be locked up? All right. See, you never know what you're going to run into. There we go. She was just loose or tight, too tight. Probably never been adjusted. Who knows? This sparkle red is hard to see all the little greasy, dirty, schmutzy things on it. I think the camera's picking it up better than I am, but I think we got the front cleaned up very nicely. I'm going to do the sides now. I don't want to put it on its face. Well, I suppose I could, as long as I don't get near that nut. Yeah, let's do the back first. Yep, dirty. Let's get the back cleaned up. I'm going to pause here while I clean the rest of this guitar. I'm going to go through every part of it and wipe it, and if I see something or, you know, something that isn't coming right off with the cleaner, then I'm going to get after it with the polish, and you guys know about that, so stand by. This guitar is cleaning up nicely. As you can see, nice and shiny. I got the top, the sides, the horns, the back, sides horn, did the back of the neck. And while I was over here, of course, we always check our hardware. One of these was loose. That guy right there. They're all snug, but off about 1/8 of a turn. So let me just snug them up. Not in this tight. That was the only one that was tight, and the rest of them were not tight, a little bit loose. You want to also check, what are these, 10 millimeter probably. Loose. Loose. Oh yeah, they're all loose. You'll notice I don't put a wrench on these. That's as tight as they need to be. You only need a 10 millimeter socket and use your hand. You don't, if you put a wrench on that and start reaming on it, all you're going to do is divot into the paint and make it too tight. It doesn't need to be that tight. Everything here is working. We got two pneumatic style bridge and saddle assembly. I like it a lot. Let's clean these up. Same stuff. Music Nomad. I like the black hardware on the red body. That is just cooler than dang it. This guitar is going to look good and it's going to play good. You know my mantra. Every player deserves to have their instrument play as well as it can possibly play. You know my other, oh geez, I'm out of the video. Sorry. You know my other mantra. I don't know why they do this, but 3 saddles are beveled that way and 3 saddles are beveled that way. I had some comments. Oh, they do that to get the intonation right. Yeah, well, I can promise you it didn't leave the factory like that. In this case, it might have. And I'm starting to think it's a common practice amongst guitar builders in these factories, Gibson included, because I've had guitars come right out of the Gibson factory with 4 saddles this way and 2 saddles that way. So, and you know, no matter how much I look, I can't find an answer. I got people putting their 2 cents in. And this one, you know, my other pet peeve, intonation screws should not be pointing at the pickup. They should be pointing towards the tailpiece, like so. That's the way I'm going to put it, which means I'm going to have to set the intonation and everything up. Unless, see, you got far more room here that distance between there and there than you do if you're trying to set intonation and wiggle a screwdriver down into this little cavity. It's wrong. It's backwards. It's the attention to detail that, I don't know, apparently people don't pay attention to. And the bevel of those saddles should all go this way. Maybe it's me. Maybe my OCD is kicking up. What should we do? Please tell me. Give me your comments. And don't forget, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. It helps me. I love to work on guitars. I love to help people with their guitars. This is what I do. We're located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And if you can't work on it yourself, see my tutorials or bring it to me and I'll do it for you. Next thing, he has brought me some strings. Ernie Ball 9s. And we're going to put the strings on it. We're going to get it strung up. The strings will hold the nut in the rest of the way. Now it's kind of tacked in there. I'm going to put you on pause quickly while I put all the strings through the tailpiece, and we're going to go from there. Stand by. Okay, so we're back with the last few strings we're going to put on here. I made an executive decision to turn this saddle around. I know that these belong facing that way. Anybody that's seen my videos knows that kind of freaks me out. I'm not going to flip the saddles around. I don't know why anybody would do that, but we'll see. Of course, I've had all this apart, cleaning it, and so I know all that adjustment's going to be out of whack. I learned something else up here too. We'll get to that in a minute. Same old, same old. You go to the peg, it's going to live right here. And we're going to go 1, 2, bend it, bring it through the hole and drive it home. First wrap goes above, and you guys finish the rest. First wrap goes above, all the other wraps go below. And you want them to run down the tuning peg. Make sure we're in the saddle. Make sure all our wraps are going down. Just tuning as I go along. Because as you put more string tension on it, it's the neck is going to start doing its thing. All right, we got one last string. And you've seen this a million times. I love it when a plan comes together. Yeah, let's see. One, 2, bend it, wrap above, and all the other ones go below. Do I sound repetitive? Do I repeat myself? Yes, I do, because there might be somebody watching that never saw it before. I know that sounds like a difference, but it's just the way the machine sounds. Close, make sure we're in our saddle where we belong. Junior. She's holding tune. May not be as far out of whack as I thought, but we'll get to that. Of course, the G. What do I always say about the G string? He's the rotten kid in class that as soon as the teacher turns her head, he's throwing erasers and spitballs. One thing I don't like, they all have to go around the same way. The way this headstock is cut out, the high E string, sorry about my bald head, the high E string is actually sticking out from the headstock slightly. And against my better judgment, I'm thinking I'm going to unwrap this and wrap it around the other way because it's really got a sharp angle that way. And that's the way the Explorer type object headstock kind of bends down that way. I've never seen it do it quite as much as that. It might be a design flaw, but I can tell you that we have really good brake angles. So I'm going to leave it like that for now, but if this becomes an issue, when we change out the good nut for this old one that we just glued in there, we might change that. And there's enough room to wrap it around clockwise, where all the rest of them are counterclockwise. They splay out nicely, but that one is sticking out past the headstock, and it could actually be hit, while you're fingering. Okay, well, I don't know. We'll see. It's Blackjack with 396 guitars. This is part one of this guitar. Thanks for coming along, and if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. We're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. If you need work done on your guitar, don't be afraid to ask. Go to my website, 396guitars.com. We'll talk soon. Back in the movie.